Okay, so yeah, last time we had, again, we're playing as a Fed, and we're just investigating the events of Hinamizawa after, I believe, the first fights had started to break out at the dam construction site. I don't believe we've had any of the killings happen yet. Because if you recall, again, in chapter 1, one of the main things that happens at the dam is the killing of like the foreman or the chairman of the board of who's in charge of the dam construction project. And like he's cut up into a bunch of pieces, and then you know, fucking people get arrested and so on and so forth, and that makes Hinamizawa like very infamous for this shit. So as far as I know, we haven't had that happen yet. So we'll see. Maybe he's the guy that investigates all this stuff. So let's go ahead and continue and see where this leads. Oh, and there's a new background we haven't seen. So it's a hotel, and yeah, it looks very affordable. All right, let's look at the console. No, sorry, where's it? Console background. Here it looks a lot more normal, let's say. And then here we have shit. Oh. And then here we have I don't know. This looks like a very 80s hotel room, but do remember this is like a picture from 2004 or 2003, just about. Is that a cap? Yeah, I think that's a cap. Anyway, waking up in a cheap hotel in the city was by no means pleasant. I remember even during the long camping trips we had during grade school, I wanted to get home quickly, counting out the days left on my fingers. Waking up this morning, I was somehow reminded of that. Was it a need to be with my wife when she gave birth? A particular type of homesickness? As a productive member of society? I mean, it's debatable whether or not glowies are actual, you know, productive members of society. I think probably like 90% of the population would agree they are not, but if this guy wants to think so, that's different. As a productive member of society, as a public servant bound to fulfill his duties, it was pathetic indeed. Those negative emotions faded as I downed my breakfast, which was surprisingly not half bad. The meeting with the informant that Oishi had provided would be tonight. Until then, I couldn't just be lazing around. The Onigashiki Guardians was protesting the dam's construction in various ways. Included in this was a strategy for improving public relations, which would be categorized into two major forms: combative and peaceful. In regards to the former, as an attempt to keep law enforcement in check, they appealed to the public's sympathy by highlighting the oppressive and inhumane tactics of the police and the brutality of the riot squads. The latter, peaceful route, stressed how precious the natural surroundings of Hinamizawa was, seeking people who would oppose the dam on environmental grounds. As a part of that, the village of Hinamizawa had invited celebrated zoologists and botanists, as well as environmental groups, to advertise the nature surrounding the town. According to the news, in recent years there had been a group calling itself Hinamizawa Nature Watching, setting up free sightseeing tours. I would have liked to have taken advantage of the opportunity, but when I called the village administrative offices, they said it was too late to apply for the tour, and they were still undecided as to when they'd be doing another one.
そうですか。次回の募集はありませんか。残念です。
あんた、環境保護団体さんですか？それとも雑誌さんの人？
いえ、個人です。
個人？観光ですかね？
観光みたいなものです。
Why would you word it this way? Why would you fucking word it this way? You were told by Oishi-san that these fuckers remember faces and that they don't like outsiders. And then here you are being like, hey, can I get a tour? Nah, we're booked. Are you part of like an environmental group? And he's like, nah, it's more of a private thing. Are you a tourist? Kinda. Who the fuck says this is the worst Fed? No, I shouldn't say that. There's worse Feds out there. There's dudes out there on. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Hopefully this doesn't put me on the list if I'm not already on one. But you'll have Feds on like Twitter do stuff like they'll post an image of a chick with like a rifle, and it'll be a dude with a face filter, so that it changes his face so that he looks more feminine, and has long hair added by effects. And is like, hey, does anyone have any rifle tips they would like to share with me? Just DM me. XD. My DMs are open. Right? And then everyone, like, the response to them are like, you fucking Fed. Try harder. So on and so forth. And then they get really fucking mad, and then they probably get demoted. Anyway. Back to...
美しい自然を写真に残すのが趣味なんで。
like Tomitake-san.
雑誌でとても貴重な自然が残っていると読んだので、楽しみにしていたのですが。
I knew there was an article that had something like that written in it, but I hadn't actually read it. Was it this ad-libbed lie not going to work? Was it? Was this? However, contrary to my expectations, the person I was speaking to laughed happily.
ならあんた、検査来なさい。村はちょいと慌ただしいけど、歓迎しますよ。
That almost didn't sound like Japanese. I don't know if it's because of the, like, I don't want to say quality of the call, but, because it's got the filter, right, for the voice. But it almost sounded like Chinese, which is weird.
ぜひそうさせていただきます。ありがとうございます。
あんた、明日は何ですか？お車？もしそうだったら、先にナンバーを聞いときますよ。台湾ないんですがね。
That was probably related to the checkpoints they'd set up on the way to the village. If I didn't give them my license plate number, I'd most likely be hindered in various ways. I thought about using the car I had borrowed from the prefecture, but I was lost on whether it was okay to tell them that plate number. If the Onigachi Guardians was behind this incident, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't be able to find out who I was. I had to play it safe, so I elected to refrain from using the car.
いえ、実は車ではないんです。バスか何かがあれば、それで行きたいのですが。
バスならありますよ。
We do?
もうすぐ廃線になっちまうそうですがね。そんでいらっしゃい。
There's a bus route? Because isn't it the one in front of the train station? I think in front of the train station there was a bus route.
沖宮の駅から出ますよ。
ありがとうございます。探してみることにします。
本当、いつ来ます？ひなみ沢さん、初めての土地じゃ、いろいろとご不安でしょう。教えてくれりゃ、誰か行かせていろいろご案内させますよ。
そんな、そこまでしていただくのは申し訳ないです。
He's so polite.
気にせんでください。これも村の自然さ守るための PR なんですから。
Judging by what I saw at the checkpoint, the villagers were at the very least wary of outsiders. That's why in order to move in and out of the village freely, I had to travel with somebody like Oishi, or side with the dam protests. Having an interest in the natural environment surrounding the village tied into the peaceful type of PR that the village was using. I was a bit against having a watchdog attached to me, but that might actually work out in my favor. The entire village was fired up about the dam protests, so I might be lucky enough to hear some especially candid opinions from the residents. Given that, there was no real reason for me to refuse their offer.
本当によろしいのでしょうか。でしたら本当に助かります。
God, imagine again, you're a fucking glowy, right? You're assigned to a village mainly because we think that someone in there was involved in the kidnapping of the governor's grandson. Was it the governor? I think it was the governor. The governator. Like they kidnapped a very important political figure's grandson. You then find out that this village is now protesting the local authorities and getting into actual scuffles with the police because they want to build a dam that will flood the entire village. The village is wary of outsiders. The village used to be known as the ogres like den or some shit, where people were believed to have descended from ogres, and that they used to eat people. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen to you the second they find out you're a Fed? It's like, imagine you're in the back of a classroom and I don't know, you fucking burp out loud and then everyone immediately turns their eyes to see you. Or the teacher calls upon you and everyone turns to look at you. That's what would fucking happen the second it's like someone finds out that you're a Fed. And then you're gonna be hung, drawn, and quartered. Or something. Anyway. After that, I was shown the bus schedule and directed to which bus I should get on. Somebody would come and meet me at the bus stop in the village. After showing me around a spot I'd taken interest in, there was no doubt they'd bring me to somewhere like an anti-dam information center. Then, over a cup of tea, they try to indoctrinate me into accepting their principles and beliefs. They would try to recruit me for their cult, like the hippies they are. Well, if that was their aim, there'd be a lot of freebies involved. The world is about give and take after all. I couldn't be going in a suit. I pulled some plain clothes out of my travel case and changed into something more casual. After that, after calming down by watching some local television, I left the hotel and set out for Okinomiya Station. The bus route that I was told would soon be discontinued certainly didn't look that way. There was more than enough trips on the schedule, and the number of passengers was by no means sparse. It was the main link to Okinomiya, the only town in the area. The types of passengers that stood out were older folk who didn't look like they could drive and housewives who didn't seem like they'd had a license. If the area was submerged at the bottom of a lake, it wouldn't matter if there was a bus route. That's why it was going to be discontinued, in the unnatural scheme of things, right? I could catch a glimpse of the government's intent in cutting off their means of transportation to bully the village into emptying out sooner. Yeah. It makes sense. According to the documents, talks between the Ministry of Construction and the locals broke down quite early. The government decided from the start to take an aggressive stance on the matter. It was like the fairy tale with the north wind and the sun trying to get the traveler to remove his cloak. Even their bullying had meaning to it. The reason why the Onigashiki Guardians resisted so violently was because the government was doing unseemly things like that. I was somebody who lived in Tokyo, so for a villager or two out in the boonies like this to be submerged didn't seem like a big deal. But I guess for somebody actually living here, it would be a vitally huge problem. This route will be discontinued at the end of this financial year. Thank you for your patronage up to this point. We look forward to your continued patronage on our other lines. Okinomiya Transportation. Gazing lazily at the notice of discontinued service posted inside the bus, I counted down the number of stops until the designated one. Along the way, we passed through the checkpoint before without stopping. They knew what time the bus was coming, so they had opened up the barricade ahead of time. From here on out was enemy territory. My palms had at some point become coated in a thin film of sweat.
浮田水道前へ、浮田水道前へ。お降りの方はいらっしゃいませんか?
I hurriedly pressed the stop request button as the designated stop was announced. For none of the numerous passengers to be getting off here meant that it must be quite a remote place. In actuality, the stop I got... Oh, shit. In actuality, the stop I got off at was so abnormally run down that I could tell it was barely used. Interesting. Let's take a quick look at this. And let's go ahead and swap to the console backgrounds. It looks neato. I really like I do like how they keep both. Sorry, they kind of keep the aesthetic for the most part, or they end up keeping a lot of the signs kind of the same a little bit. Like here, like we have the little map below of the bus route and the schedules, I assume, and then that says bus stop, I think. Let's see, bus. Noriba. Yeah. Bus stop. If we go back to the original backgrounds, you can also kind of see the schedule there, right below. Except here, they're using the fuck were these things called? Not alligator clips. Holy shit! What the hell are these things called? Fuck were they called? I know it's a clip, but is it was it just? It's not a paper clip. What the fuck are these? Binder clips, I think. Are they? Yeah, binder clips. That's what they're fucking called. I haven't thought about this object in ages. Anyway, here they're binder clips, and in the console one, they're I think they're just nails. Like they're just nailed to the to the actual stop. Anyway, as soon as I stepped out, and in an intense atmosphere completely different than the interior of the bus assailed my body. Right now, Oishi or Hondaya weren't beside me. That's right. At present, I was alone in the middle of enemy territory. My adversaries probably thought I was just an ordinary tourist, but that was nothing more than a ruse. But if by some mistake my true identity was to be exposed, yeah, what are you going to do about that part? It brought back the terrifying words I heard at the prefectural office, that if somebody was attacked in Hinamizawa with a knife, there wouldn't be any evidence left behind. I didn't seem suspicious, did I? My clothing was currently casual. It was exactly the type of clothing that a city slicker that viewed the countryside as a wholesome getaway would wear. A camera and a knapsack. Also, hey Bash, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, we are continuing with Higurashi. This is chapter 4, subchapter 2 at the moment. Inside were various things needed for hiking. It was still only June, and maybe it was unusual, but the sun was shining down like it was already the middle of summer. The fact that I didn't bring a hat must seem odd. No, it wasn't something to be that concerned about. It's alright. I was just a normal tourist. Dude, like, imagine someone brings this shit up. Someone's like, oh, you're a tourist here? Where's your hat? Why wouldn't you bring a hat? Because this is like some shit that Mion would pull, right? She would be like, oh, you went out hiking? Why didn't you take a hat? I thought you said you liked hiking. Wouldn't you normally bring a hat out if you're hiking, you know, since it's hot out? Why wouldn't you do that? Just some shit like that is what they would pull. Like, I bet like that's what would fucking happen, and I bet that's going to happen. Anyway, was there anything suspicious about me? Asking that as I turned around to look at the bus that was departing, all the passengers by the window were staring down at me. Silently. It's exactly as I just fucking said. They were staring right at me, as if they had seen right through my proud little outfit. Just staring, looking down on me. Countless stares rained down like needles on me from the windows opened to air out the bus. All that rained down were stares. None of them were saying a word. But all the more, their silent stares told me more than a million words could. Hurry up and go back to Tokyo, you outsider.
私は
There was no reason for me to speak. My quiet voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The bus, as if to torment me, set out slowly, and after doing more than enough to intimidate me, sped off. A thin film of sweat began to rise from my entire body. According to the documents, it was a village that seemed wary of outsiders. Its population was small as well. If they saw an unfamiliar face, they would be quick to identify that face as an outsider, On top of that, nobody else had gotten off at this stop. It was a bus stop that they normally just passed on by. Somebody actually getting off there. There was no doubt that had drawn some attention. But this wasn't a slip-up. They were the ones who directed me to get off at this stop. There was nothing to worry about. Now, imagine when this Fed ended up calling that a like tourist or that like a tour guide section or whatever, right? Or that line to get a tour of one of the nature reserves or some shit. They tell all the outsiders to get off at this specific spot. That way, whenever they get off here, which is, as far as I know, this isn't close to the village, because there's more stops, right? Whatever the furthest stop is probably as close as you're going to get to the village. That way, when those people who do reach the end, the final stop, let's say, before the bus has to come back, they can tell everyone else someone got off at that stop. And then word gets around, someone calls, right? And then people know what this person looks like. They're like, he's wearing this, he's dressed like this, he has no hat. It's the middle of June, he's in the mountains, he's got no hat. That's how you know he's the outsider. Also, hey Billy, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, this is the Hinamizawa bus stop. Bus stop. I knew that I was just nervous since it was my first undercover assignment. My more seasoned colleagues referred to us as the new generation that didn't know how to lose their cool. But that wasn't true at all. Alright, get real close to the mic. And then just like moan into it. Got it? Alright, let me deliver this line real quick. And then bro does what he just did. In order to calm my breathing down, I exhaled the unpleasant air residing in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but pray that my apprehensions would disappear like the white clouds of exhaust expelled from the bus. There was a small shed there to serve as shelter if it rained, and it was there that I decided to wait. Inside the shed, one wall was plastered with posters advertising the dam opposition efforts. It was like the heartfelt screams of the villagers were recorded on that wall. Inside that shelter, I felt an inexplicable pressure. It wasn't like I had any real relation to the dam project, but it still made me feel hesitant about being inside there. That was just how filled with the force of denial that space was. And inside that uneasy space was a girl. Huh? Oh no. The gremlin herself. Don't tell me that, like, you know how we had a whole chapter with Sadoko, right? Bonding with the protagonist, with Keiichi. That this chapter is gonna be Rika bonding with a Fed. Oh no. That would be fucking something if that's what happens. Anyway. Inside that shed, covered in words written in broad brushstrokes, berating the policies regarding the dam and calling for action, there was a girl sitting there with a drowsy gaze as if half asleep. The two images clashed so much that I could only stand there dumbfounded for a moment, trapped in such a surreal environment. If I stepped inside, who knew what kind of oafish noises I would accidentally make? Huh? I couldn't be disturbing this girl's slumber like that. Having thought this, I gave up on entering the shed. It was just a sleeping kid, so why was I so worked up about it? Finally, I realized. This girl, to us as a married couple, was the very image of our ideal child. Even after numerous examinations at the hospital, we didn't know for sure what our child's gender was. Whether we could tell if it was going to be a boy or girl was in the end dependent on whether or not we could get an image of their genitalia. There was, of course, no guarantee that it was a girl, but with things the way they were, the possibility was high. Even so, Yukia had been saying that the chances that it was a boy or a girl were even. But in my heart, I had already decided that our coming child was a girl. Since the day I decided that until now, it was so fun to imagine how our child would grow up that I couldn't help myself. Amongst those imagined forms, the one that I thought would be the most ideal had materialized right in front of me. Of course, a little bit was due to the circumstances. In my ideal image, her hair would be on the short side. The girl in front of me, though, had long hair. It was almost as if, is what it should be, somebody had taken my ideal and made some small adjustments. It certainly wasn't something unpleasant. Even so, I felt like I was sullying her just by looking at her like that. What the fuck? Oh, dude, this guy's wording, like, the way he thinks this shit is so fucking weird. Anyway, she had an a divine air about her. Now here's a yawning Rena. Oh boy. Oh, there she is. The girl with an angelic smile, with a yawn wide enough you could see her molars, woke up all of a sudden. And here she is, again. My god. Well, I know what the thumbnail is going to be, but I'm not sure which of the 3 images to use. I didn't mean to peep. But locking eyes with a girl who had just woken up like this somehow made me feel like I was playing a prank on her. I wasn't doing anything shady, but I became flustered. The girl spoke. No, cried out.
Me.
Meep? Like that character on the show with the puppets? With the orange hair? I thought it was just one of those greetings kids do. So, in order to prove that I wasn't a suspicious person, I responded to the kid.
Me.
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 The girl stared at me dubiously with a doll-like expression, cute but cold and hard to read. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. There was, after all, an unfamiliar man right in front of her when she spoke up, who responded with meep when she said the same. Suspicious. She definitely thought I was suspicious.
Me?
His fucking line deliveries are hilarious. Like, he starts saying me, but like his voice is like dry-ish after the second E, and it cracks. And that just means the CV is like really good. We were both at a loss for words. No, the only one lost was me. The girl in front of me, as if inquiring about my motive, stared at me intently. In this silence, I felt like I was the one who had to say something first. Damn it, this girl was way better at interrogating somebody than Oishi.
怪しいものじゃないんだ。私は
みぱ
ニパ
Nipa?
みぱ
What I could have only described as a cold expression suddenly blossomed into a smile, one that soon infected me. You might be familiar with the term angelic smile. To me, it was like that phrase was created just to describe the smile she gave me. The girl smiling while saying Nipa probably wanted me to return the favor in kind. That's right. This was a kid's form of communication. Having the other person emulate what you just did was a rudimentary form of mutual understanding.
ニパ
みぱ
It was a beautiful afternoon in the early summer. What the fuck was I doing?
ニパー。
I can't get over this shit. This dude is like, I think he's like 30 or some shit. I don't know. But it's just funny hearing like a 30-year-old say this shit. Well, whatever. This was interesting in its own way. If making somebody happy with just a smile was the work of angels, then this girl was definitely one of them. I couldn't help but pray that my own child, who was soon to be born, would grow up to be like this girl. That strangely gentle moment was finally brought to the end by the arrival of a car. An older person waved at me from the driver's seat, a dry smile plastered on their face.
どうも、こんにちは。遅れて申し訳ないことです。昨日お電話くださった観光の方ですかね。
あ、はい。
お待たせして申し訳ねえ。いや、野良でちょいと遅れましてね。したらと、お乗りくださいな。天気もまんた崩れそうだから、ちゃけちゃけご案内しますよ。
天気ですか？
ああ、ここいらは崩れると早いよ。
True?
今日は夕立になるかもな。そうなったら、ほんと写真さ撮るところじゃなくなるでしょう。ほら、乗って乗って。
Turning around, the girl was standing right behind me with an intrigued expression. Her body language somehow reminded me of a stray cat that followed you around after you played with it a little. So charming. Oh my god.
あれ、リカちゃまじゃねえですか。
Chama.
ありがたや、ありがたや。
Because do remember, Rika is, of course, the daughter of the local priest, who I believe at the moment is still alive. So, since he is alive, I mean, she's still just the revered daughter. But if I recall, they used, because I looked it up a while ago, Chama, if I recall, was like another, like a formal way to refer to someone or some shit. I believe. It's been a bit. A girl named Rika with an immaculate smile and an old man praising her while rubbing prayer beads in his hands. It was a rather mysterious sight to behold. Also, wait, how old is Rika at this point? Cause this is like, was it 79 or 75? I don't fucking remember. Again, for you guys, it's, if you're watching this on YouTube later, it's been like a day. For me, it's been a week and a half. Fuck, I don't remember. But like, Rika is probably very young here. So the girl turned her face at me, tilting her head a little. Tilting her head a little in a cutesy manner after seeing that. After seeing that, the elder introduces me as a tourist who came sightseeing. To sightsee Hinamizawa.
村を観光したい若者なのです。
The girl, Rika-chan, said that with a smile as she clung onto my arm.
まあね、この村の自然がとても貴重だと聞いたんで、ぜひカメラに収めたいと思ったんだよ。私はこう見えてもとっても写真撮影が好きでね。
富竹2号なのです。
Oh no.
富竹？
牧野、僕も一緒に行ってはいけませんですか？
そんな、レカちゃまが来ても面白いことなんかなんもないですよ。レカちゃまは境内でマリア遊びでもしててくださいな。
A distinctly displeased expression creeped across Rika-chan's face. Being able to show one's emotions honestly on their face was a privilege young children had.
もしお差し支えなければ、この子も連れて行ってあげてください。
When I said those helpful words, another smile spread across Rika's face with another nipa as she clung to me again. Not bad at all. I want this girl. Oh no, I'm not reading that line. No, no. Oh, I mean, I get it, right? This dude is a soon-to-be father, and that's why he's thinking all of this. But my God, reading this shit out loud is something else. Oh no! Oh no! No! God damn it. Anyway, what am I doing? Yeah, exactly. What the fuck? Ever since I met this girl, I was completely off my game. Just calm down. Holy fuck, dude.
レイカちゃまはダメだ言うても聞かんしな。知ったらんと、おなれ、ささ、レイカちゃまも。
The old man descended from the driver's seat and opened up the sliding door of the van, which had Onigashiki Alliance Town Council stenciled on the side. Rika brushed me aside and dove into a seat and began bouncing around right away. It seemed like she was thoroughly enjoying the bouncy springs.
はんれ、レイカちゃま。そんじゃおかごちゃんが座れねえですよ。やだ、こら、レイカちゃま。
Girls are nice. I wonder if my child will play around like this too. No. It was written in that guide that raising a child that you shouldn't dote on them. Kids are kids if you don't raise them strictly without spoiling them.
ふかふかでバインバインでニパー。
ニパ
I am definitely gonna be a terrible father. It was decided that I would be a doting parent before my child was even born.
さんではお客さん、風景の綺麗そうなとこね、適当にご案内しますよ。お昼は食べましたかいね。
ええ。ホテルで軽食を。
そんですか。では参りましょうかね。
ひなみ沢観光に出発なのですよ。わーいなのです。
君はリカちゃんでいいのかい？
そうなのですよ。フルでリカと言いますです。もう繰り上がりの足し算とかもできますですよ。
Oh.
ああ、そうなの。それはすごいな。
Oh,
お
God.
指とかは折ってませんですよ。ちゃんと暗算でできますですよ。
She's so smart. The way she insisted upon that was just too cute. At some point, the nervousness I had about being alone in enemy territory had evaporated like it was never there at all. I had to be at least a little thankful that I met this girl.
じゃあ出発しましょうかいね。ひなみ沢大自然ウォッチング。
The old man stepped on the gas with a great deal of gusto. Oh God. The Rika jump scare. The old man, who was apparently named Makino, was he the same Makino that was listed as the auditor of the Onigashiki Guardians? Showed me around places that were all breathtaking. Even though I wasn't really here for sightseeing, I couldn't help but be impressed. First of all, this was different from the simple scenery of a city. The scenery of a charming village like this, no matter how mundane it seemed to the villagers, had a tranquil appeal to it. At first, I was only releasing the shutter as part of my touristic act, but midway through, I found myself taking pictures out of pure interest. Tourist traps had their own unique allure to them, but there was nothing like that here. I was especially captivated by the unspoiled nature of that place, or of the place. If there wasn't that whole uproar over the dam, I would want to bring Yukiya with me here some other time. I wanted her to breathe in this fresh air as well as show her this rejuvenating verdant scenery.
こんな 白いのですか？赤坂は変な人なのです。
いや、こういう円筒状の郵便ポストなんて今はとても貴重だよ。どことなく漂うノスタルジックな雰囲気は渋いと思わないかな。
ひなみ沢は楽しいですか？
まあ楽しいよ。退院したらぜひ家内を連れてもう一度来たいよ。その時には生まれている子供も一緒にね。今は出産を控えて入院しているんだ。予定日がもうすぐでね。
Why are you saying any of this? Why the fuck would you say any of this? Imagine, if you will, a plain village up in the mountains. A glowy happens to be sightseeing, where he meets upon a young girl. He then starts to spill his guts out to her as he's distracted by the local scenery, and proceeds to tell her that his wife is pregnant and is due any moment now. The little girl looks up to him inquisitively and asks, "Why the fuck are you in my village then, if your wife is about to give birth?" The man stupidly has no response. Why would you say this shit? Even if for whatever reason, right, Rika doesn't ask these questions, which I'm sure she is going to. She could probably tell her parents or something like, "Oh yeah, there was this like tourist here. He was he was taking pictures. He was up here in the mountains for some reason while his wife is in a hospital in Tokyo waiting to give birth." And then being like, "Oh fuck, it's a Fed." And then we get, you know, hung, drawn, and quartered.
君みたいな可愛い女の子だといいんだけど。
お客さんはもうすぐおめでたですかいね。
Oh, you said that in front of the tour guide.
そんないけねえよ。奥さん惚れ出しこんなとこに遊びに来てちゃ。
Exactly. I was momentarily at a loss for words. Oh, really? You fucking idiot. The fuck were you expecting? God, even glowies back then were terrible. It was exactly how Makino said. There was no good reason for a man who was waiting for his wife to give birth to be playing around idly in this place. Did I slip up? Yeah.
まあひなみ沢への旅行は前々からの予定だったんで、妻の家族が付き添ってくれているから大丈夫だし。
そんなに前から予定してたんなら、もしかめ間に合わんとかいね。
Yeah. Why don't you tell us, Chloe? Why didn't you make the sign up deadline for the nature watching, huh? You planned all this shit out in advance, right?
いや、そんだったらこんな窮屈な思いさせんと綺麗な観光バスで回れたのね。
It didn't seem as if Makino was actually digging for anything. But if this conversation continued any longer, it would put some unexpected holes in my cover. I halted the conversation by pretending to take another picture.
じゃあ最後の一番景色のいいとこさ案内しましょうかね。
Oh, is it gonna be right behind the shrine on the tree where you can see the whole village? It was slightly before the evening. The sun was still burning brightly, but a cool breeze had begun to mix itself into the air. Oh, that's like one of the best feelings. It seemed my exploration of Hinamizawa with Rika was just about done.
一番景色のいいところですか？
そんなリカちゃま、境内からの景
It
色
is!
さ
Oh,
置
I
いて
fucking knew it!
他にはありませんやね。
It is right behind the shrine. Hearing that, Rika smiled even more.
では 赤坂を僕のお家へご招待なのです。
リカちゃんのお家って
神社ですよ。古出神社。高台にありましてね。景色さ見られるんですよ。
古出神社。
The girl who called Furude Shrine her home, Rika. If I remembered correctly, her full name was Rika Furude. And Furude was... That's right, one of the 3 families. Even if the Sonozaki family is said to hold all the actual power, it was still one of the old houses that held some authority. No, more important than that right now was Furude Shrine. If I remembered correctly, Oishi had told me. Within the grounds of the Furude Shrine, there were the offices of the Onigafchi Guardians. And since the land around Furude Shrine was private property, the police couldn't set foot there heedlessly. Furude Shrine, where even Oishi couldn't simply set foot into, the main base of operations for the Onigafchi Guardians, had been given the unexpected opportunity to enter there. I couldn't have asked for more.
楽しみです。ぜひお願いします。
じゃあ酒々参りましょうかね。天気も少し怪しいですからな。
Oh boy. The sky had suddenly become overcast. It wouldn't be odd if it started raining soon. Cicadas, as if trying to finish their daily allotment of chirps before the evening, cried out even more fervently. And that's the first half of the chapter. The van stopped in the shrine parking lot. Or shrine's parking lot. It has a parking lot? What the fuck? What do you mean shrine parking lot? The fuck do you mean shrine parking lot? Hold on. Yeah, here. That's what I mean. The reason why I'm confused is because most shrines are kind of like this in Japan. To my knowledge. I never really bothered looking up a lot of info on shrines because I don't care much about, you know, shrines overall. But they're usually something like this, right? They will usually have a specific road, like right behind the Tori gate. You can see the people walking, right? You'll have either a long paved road or, a long road that leads to either to some steps or that leads to a forest or, you know, stuff like that. And then in front of the Tori gate, like here in this picture, we've got a street, right? I always pictured the one in Hinamizawa to just be... because if you recall, whenever we're going through, like, the city... whenever we're going through the village, there's usually, like, how to word it? Like, stone walls, right? They're made of, like, you know, stacked pebbles or, like, stacked rounded rocks, right? All this stuff. And then the path barely fits, like, a car or two, right? That's how I pictured this would be. Where the sides of the entrance... Well, actually, if you look at the background here, you see those, like, stone, like... I don't know. Like the stone or, like, the bits of wall, I guess, to the side on the right there. That's what I pictured. Just something, like, much taller. You know, like 2 meters or, like, 2.5 meters tall. And then the entrance to the shrine, something like this, where you would have the steps that go up it. See if I can find another picture of, like, a shrine entrance. Where's it? Let's see if I can get a good one. Actually, here, this one could work. Something like this. Like so. You see how there's like just trees and then like almost these exact same like rocks there on the side? That's what I pictured. I know I'm going off on this tangent just because I read parking lot, but I'm still just confused as to where the fuck they would have the parking lot. unless there's like some slightly designated area for this sort of like shit at the literal bottom. I don't fucking know, dude. It's kind of weird. But anyway, back to Higurashi. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on top of them to act as makeshift propaganda vehicles. On the side of each vehicle was scrawled, "The dam project must be demolished. Defend our homeland to the last. No Yashiro-sama's anger," or a slogan of a similar kind. They gave the feeling that even without using loudspeakers, there was enough to overwhelm any onlookers. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were similar. They were all objections against the dam or crude insults towards the government. There were horizontal banners, placards, and so on and so forth. They proclaimed that without a doubt, this was the headquarters of the Onigashiki Guardians. For Rika, however, this hectic place was also her home.
着きましたのですよ。
Also, did they give her like a new sprite? Oh god, she's like right up to us. I thought they might have given her a new sprite because she's quote-unquote younger here. And then the jump scare of the manga gamer art. God damn.
ただいまなのです。
Rika crawled over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had noticed that I was looking at protest banners.
現在はダム反対運動の事務所も兼ねてましてね。こんな風景もあんたらには反安保闘争みてえで懐かしいでしょ。
Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, if only in order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling with the riot squads that charged in. It was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered the road to glory. It was slightly before my
私は
time.
別に活動家ではありませんので、普通に学び、普通に卒業しました。国の政策にあのような暴力や立てこもりで対抗しようというのには、私は同意できません。
はあ。あんた、それはそれで立派な意見さお持ちだね。
政策に意見したかったら、同じ意見の政治家に投票するか、自ら政治の世界に飛び込み、正当な手続きを持って意見を主張するべきであると思っています。
Oh.
それが民主政治の原点です。それに暴力で挑戦するなどあってはならないと思います。
How ironic for him that is exactly what ended up happening in Hinamizawa. Where people were like, well, we can't get anywhere with violence, or we can't get everywhere with violence. So members of the S Alliance, I don't remember what the fuck it was called, S Group, I almost said S Club, which I don't think anyone knows or remembers S Club. I don't think they're active anymore, but they used to be like a, it's not a boy band, but because they had girls in it too, but it was like a pop group from the early 2000s, late 90s. That like literally no one remembers. Anyway, like we had people from the S Group eventually join Parliament, which is crazy. For a youngin', you have some fine beliefs. I saw that feeling of respect reflected in Makino's gaze. At that moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
赤坂が何を言っているのか全然わからないのですよ。
Rika, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. That expression was so charming, I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. It's often said that a father who wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood that feeling very well.
ごめんね。リカちゃんには難しい話だったね。日本は平和の国だから、自分の言いたいことは平和的に訴えなきゃいけない。暴力で訴えてはいけないということさ。
No matter how much I explained, a girl who was just boasting about being able to carry digits over when adding things probably wouldn't understand. It probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika anyway.
では赤坂、僕たちの村はどうやったらダムに沈まなくなるのですか？
Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was at the main headquarters of an organization, telling them their way of doing things was illegal. Preaching that violence was not the answer. You fucking hippie. A complicated feeling had mixed itself with the respect of Makino's gaze. It was then I finally realized. It wasn't that simple. There wasn't a soul who would argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everybody knew you shouldn't be proud of. However, right now Hinamizawa was in a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of the Hinamizawa Dam project, through the efforts of the various propaganda campaigns enacted by the Onigashiki Guardians, was being called into question. If they further strengthen their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change the construction plans. Also, a new song, I think? But that was that was at most just a possibility. Actually, I think I lowered the audio too much. There we go. If the government proceeds with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of the lake. If it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might already have been underwater.
僕たちはここでしか生きていけないのです。都会では生きていけないのです。
The words of this remarkably young girl were all too accurate, carrying with them the screams of the hearts and minds of the residents of Hinamizawa. Of course, there was nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika's heavy words with silence.
すみません。よそ者が気安く言えるような問題ではなかったですね。謝罪します。
Makino, unsure of how to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly.
お客人たちのようなよそに住んでる方々には関係ねえことです。南沢さん気に入ってくださったんなら、お客人のお友達みんなにも南沢さん素晴らしいところだって宣伝してください。そういうのが何十年何百年と広がっていけば、この村さダム底に沈めるなんてふざけた計画もやがてはつえるんですかね。
He followed that with a smile that said, "Please don't think much of it." Makino letting me not worry that much really was a stroke of good fortune. Becoming infatuated with the idea of making friends with a little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension at being in enemy territory. Being reminded of this right before I was going to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we'd had this exchange in the middle of their office, if there was a short-tempered youth in there, they might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, in the worst case, my life could have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at that moment. Makino, thinking he had said something wrong, became flustered trying to think of a way to improve my mood.
本当に軽率なことを言いました。本当にすみませんでした。
いいえ。そんなにお気にされないでください。
今日案内してもらった村のあちこちは、どこもとても美しく、素晴らしい場所ばかりでした。もう一度来たいと、心底思わされました。そんな美しい村が、ダムの湖底に沈むことになれば、必死の戦いになるのもわかります。
I had somehow managed to use my despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino had returned to his usual high spirits. It seemed he believed I completely sympathized with his point of view.
そうそう。そんな話はこれくらいにしましょう。本当にとても景色さえいいところがあるんです。
行きましょうですよ、赤坂。
Rika, seemingly happy to be free from all the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounded up the stone steps. There was no real need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected on the shrine grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables and chairs, and a number of the older town council members were livening things up with chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiary like, the damn project must be destroyed. It was just some relaxed, idle chit-chat between local geezers. A normal sort of calming scenery. At the entrance of a shed that looked like a meeting place, there was a large sign erected with Onigashiki Guardian's headquarters, written in bold brushstrokes. That was their base of operations. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. If he asked what I had been imagining, this is a bit embarrassing, but I had thought it would have been much more dramatic, with barbed wire fences and barricades. My first impressions of the place, though, was completely different from that. My first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything other than exactly that. The old folks who were chatting had noticed Rika's presence.
リカちゃまじゃないの。もう子供はお家に帰る時間だよ。
ここは僕のお家なのですよ。
The old folks guffawed, since she wasn't wrong. From that exchange, I could tell that this Rika Furude girl was loved by everybody.
牧野さん、その人？電話をくれた観光の人は。
そんですよ。こちら村長さんに、ひなめ沢の久米吉村長さん。
It's the mayor. Oh shit. He's the guy that was really nice to. Well, yeah, not just Rika as well, but also. God, her name. I'm blanking on her name already. Holy fuck. Anyway, he smiled brightly. Jesus fuck, I'm trying to remember her name. Oh my god. I feel so fucking terrible. Satoko. Jesus fuck, man. How could I forget her name? Anyway, he smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking that he would be scary if he got angry. By the looks of things, this old man was the president of the Onigashiki Guardians, none other than Kiichiro Kimiyoshi himself.
ようこそひなみ沢へ。いかがでしたか？静かでゆっくりしたところでしょう。
ええ、今日一日美しい場所をいくつも堪能させていただきました。貴重な機会をお与えくださったことを感謝します。
へえ、今時の若い方なのにまた真摯な方だね。
喜一郎、赤坂に見晴らしのいいところを案内したいのですよ。
Thinking that the formalities between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name, I felt it was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. A girl of the Furude household, one of the three families, she was probably different than the average villager.
赤坂、こっちなのですよ。
Rika tugged on my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over, and waiting for me was a magnificent view.
これはすごい。
It was an observation deck that looked down on the village. They, knowing that this was the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but I completely forgot to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, it wouldn't be able to show everything. If there was a way to explain it, it would it would only be what I would be able to put into words. It was just such a breathtakingly spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while, I was left awestruck. I could only stand there and wonder. A cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. That comfortable sensation also left me speechless. Rika, who had been holding onto my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
僕の一番のお気に入りの場所なのですよ。
As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. That smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, that was because the view from her favorite spot would eventually be submerged under the deep green waters of the dam reservoir.
こんな村が湖底に沈むことになってるなんて信じられないよ。
I said it quietly so that only Rika could hear it. I regretted it as soon as I did. For those words were all too cruel. Exactly, what the fuck, man? However, Rika didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a smile.
沈みませんよ。ダム計画なんて必ずなくなっちゃいますのです。
It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There was no basis for her saying so. It was just your wish.
赤坂はこの村が沈んでしまうと思っていますか？
沈んでほしくなんかないよ。
I knew how important the dam was. I knew that it was necessary. I just didn't want to recognize the sacrifices that would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant that this girl's beloved scenery wouldn't be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation, the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. Not really much of a humanist, but how sentimental of me.
沈みませんよ。
That's a really fucking funny line. Like, the implications, right? I'm not really much of a humanist, but... And yet I'm not surprised. Because the dude's a fucking glowy.
ダムの計画はもうすぐなくなりますですから。
Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but were seasoned with a hint of resolve, as if she was talking about an unchangeably predetermined outcome. As surely as the sun rising in the east,
もうすぐなくなる？
wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
はい。なくなりますのですよ。
どうしてそう言い切れるんだい？
それはなのです。
She seemed to want to answer, but as though unable to find the right words, she swallowed back what she was about to say.
赤坂が何をしてもしなくても、ダム計画は今年で終わりになってしまうのです。もう決まっていることなのですよ。
That was a lie. If something like that had already been decided, then the Onigashiki Guardians would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was like they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into an endless battle. I don't know why that's concerning you. Instead of the no matter what you do part, which concerns me instead. If they knew the dam project was cancelled, it would feel much more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how charged the atmosphere was at the checkpoint, or at the bus stop. The villagers with their misplaced resolve are still fighting. And this girl, even knowing the villagers' grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who said they had already won. That contrast was somehow strange.
どうしてそう思うんだい？何か確信があるなら私に教えてくれないかい？
Rika stayed silent for a while, seemingly choosing what to say.
だって、
だって
She looked like she was lost on whether she should continue or not. As if she was troubled on whether it was okay for her to say it. That kind of expression.
決まっていることなのです。他に言いようがないのですよ。
決まっているって言ったって。
It really is just sorry, it really is just like a little girl to say something like that. I couldn't believe it was actually true. My real mission that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day resurfaced at the back of my mind. The kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Right, not governor, minister. Had the Onigavchi Guardians kidnapped the minister's grandson and already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project? Did Kimiyoshi actually already know that and was just playing dumb? Was that what this girl was really telling me?
赤坂
The girl called out my name
なん
suddenly.
だい？
東京へ帰れ。
Huh? I wasn't only surprised at the sound, at that sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked over? What was I getting so worked up over? It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor.
あなたはさっさと東京に帰った方がいい。でないとひどく後悔することになる。
The girl that had been holding my sleeve the entire time. She'd been tugging at my sleeve since hurriedly dragging me over to show me this wonderful view. But this was the adorable Rika who I'd spent the entire day with. There was no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. She had been holding onto my sleeve this entire time, but somehow, this girl was someone other than Rika. She looked like Rika, but she wasn't. She was some girl I had never met before. And her voice got deeper. That girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village from the bottom of my heart.
それがあまりにもみすぼらしくて気の毒今のうちから警告してあげているのです。
どうして私が後悔することになると？
いちいちうるさいな。
Oh boy. And then here we have another Lake Eureka CG. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe that I was hearing such cold words come from Rika-chan's mouth. I just couldn't believe it. Was somebody impersonating her using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to take a look around, but the girl's gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move.
あなたの親はあなたが赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中にいるときどうして危ないのかを全部説明し終えるまであなたの手を引っ張らないの？引っ張るでしょ？まず歩道まで連れ戻してからなぜ危険なのかを解くでしょう。つまりはそういうこと。
The girl I had spent time with, Rika Furude, would not speak like that. She would speak with the cuteness befitting her age, with brief, childish remarks, expressing her emotions honestly. She definitely wouldn't speak with such pointed words.
警告はした。勘違いしないでほしいのは私があなたを嫌いだからこういうことを言ってるわけじゃないってこと。死んでもいい人に危険なんかを教える必要はないのだし。
君は誰だ？リカちゃんじゃない。
She looked looks so fucking smug. Oh my god. She's like a gremlin. Oh my god. Ah, oh, the manga game. It scares the shit out of me every single time, dude. As soon as I accused her of not being Rika, she let out a strange, quiet giggle. It was a laugh not befitting a child of her age. It was like she was possessed by something. Her change was just that total and complete. Was Rika being attacked by some terrifying phenomenon? That occult idea came to mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika is acting strange. Somebody, help. Thinking that, I yelled that. I turned to where the mayor was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right. To him, it looked like nothing more than me and Rika fooling around. He didn't notice that there was something terrifying happening to her.
赤坂の怖がり
The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. That cackling girl, approaching me in a strange manner, while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika fell. If it was just a while before, I would have extended a hand to help her up without hesitation. But now, extending a hand to this ominous girl who looked like Rika, but wasn't, required a bit more courage than I had at the moment.
Me.
The girl cried out thus. She then squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crept across her face. You've got to be kidding me. Was she making fun of me? That way of acting. It was as though, after being possessed by something, she had lost her memories of what happened.
冗談だろリカ
Me.
I don't know if Rika had heard me or not. She just cried out like that, as if questioning herself.
お客人リカちゃまもお茶が入りましたよ塩大福もあるからにぜひ食ってきんさいな
An old lady wearing a smock was waving energetically from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were snacks, Rika's expression changed.
はーいなのです
God, she looks so tiny. A carefree smile. That was the familiar smile, the one that belonged to the embodiment of my ideal daughter. Any hint of that creepy girl that was just here, spouting sinister words, had vanished.
ほらリカちゃま手を洗ってきんさいねバッチおててにゃ食わせるまんじゅうはありんせんね
Manju. Hold on. This is more for me later. I'll look into what that is. I'm not sure what manju really is in this case.
ちゃんと洗いますですよみー
Rika responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, turning around to call to me.
早く来ないから僕は赤坂の分までおまんじゅうが食べられてホクホクなのです
Ah, okay, so it's a food. Well, let's see. What is manju? It is a sweet pastry. So it's a small bun with red bean paste. Oh, okay, so it's... Oh, yeah, I've seen these before. You probably have as well. Just all over the place in Japan. Or even in anime. But they're this. They're little like buns that are just filled with a paste of some kind. In this case, it's a red bean paste. But I know there's other ones that have like cream, or let's see, yeah, like these that are filled with other stuff. So these have like what might be like chocolate and cream. The other ones are like, I think, a strawberry or cherry filling with cream, and then there's like mango with cream. But you get the idea. It's a sort of bun that's filled with something.
お手手を洗わない人はおまんじゅうが食べられないのですよ。
No matter how you looked at it, that was Rika. Those words and the way she said them, no matter how you heard them, they were definitely Rika's.
ほんでお客人、大人なんだからお手本を示してやってくださいな。
The old lady urged me to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika at the wash station. Splish splash. I stared at Rika, intent on washing her hands properly like she had probably learned at school.
みー、間違っていますか？
間違いって。
Like when you threatened us a bit ago?
僕のお手手の洗い方です。金シールを4個しかもらったことないです。僕はお手手を洗うのがきっと下手なのですよ。
間違ってなんかないよ。それだけしっかり洗えてれば十分だよ。
それだけではダメなのですよ、赤坂。ちゃんとたわしを使って爪の間の赤も落とさないと金シールはもらえないのです。
True?
うん。リカちゃんは真面目で偉いな。
ニパー、赤坂に褒められましたのです。
No matter how you looked at it, it was Rika. There was no trace of that girl from before. Exactly what was that sinister girl?
リカちゃん、さっきのあれはどういう意味だい？さっきリカちゃんは私に東京へ帰れってそう言っただろ。
言いましたのですか？
I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember what that girl just now said. Like I would ever believe something as occult as that could happen. Like I would ever believe that Rika could be possessed by that strange girl and say those creepy things.
リカちゃんが確かにそう言ったよ。
みー。
Her expression told me that, despite my saying so, she had no idea. She wasn't playing dumb, she actually didn't know. Exactly what was that just now? Just as Rika had, I let a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us, both looking like we had no idea what was going on, must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. While partaking of the tea and snacks, I was shown a propaganda film shot by the Guardians that highlighted the resistance efforts. I don't think we've seen this background before. This might be a little bit inside of the office itself, maybe? Or this might be like a room with a shrine on it, as you can see there in the background. If you remember from when we played through Fatal Frame, any of them, actually, I'm pretty sure every single Fatal Frame had a room kind of like this, you know, a room with a tatami mat, and then some little shrine on it. You know, a piece of furniture that that opens up like two little doors, and inside is a shrine of some kind, and then adorning the walls, just like on this image, there were pictures all over the wall, like at the top, lined up next to each other, kind of like this. But in Fatal Frame, they were, you know, pictures of individuals, Here, they seem to be pictures of various parts of the village, I assume. Let's swap over to the console background real quick. Here it's completely different, but it's still a tatami room, or a room with tatami mats. I'd assume since this is Hinamizawa, and it's quote-unquote a backwards village, right, that's, you know, still stuck in the past, most homes probably have tatami mats all over the place. Like, every room is a tatami room. While in modern Japan, as far as I know, they will sometimes have a room with these specific type of mats in them. Not all of them anymore, especially not modern like apartments or anything like that, but homes in general tend to have a room with this type of mats as the flooring. And apparently they're super expensive to replace if they somehow get dirty. Or something along those lines. Older folks talked passionately on how long and grueling the fight against the dam was, but they fell on deaf ears. I was transfixed by Erika, who had heard these stories countless times before and was nodding off. Eventually, Erika noticed that I was staring at her and smiled as she rubbed her eyes. That smile was Erika's after all. There was no hint of that sinister shadow. After that, my unreasonable fear of Erika lessened with the passing of time, but I could by no means forget what had happened. Yeah. Kind of like when Keiichi would grow close to Satoko, and then Satoko would say something out of fucking nowhere. It eventually grew dark. The mayor said that they had to prepare dinner, but I said I would come again tomorrow and took my leave. I had to return to the hotel and file my regular report with the section chief.
そうですか。では、また明日もぜひいらっしゃい。お電話さくれれば、すぐに迎えを出しますんでね。
ご好意感謝します。ぜひ明日も遊びに来ようと思います。
ええ、さしてあげてくださいな。
Wait a minute. He said it was June. That means that he's probably going to be around for the Watanagashi. Like, it just hit me. Because I thought he was just going to visit, like, you know, once and that's it. And then maybe be like, okay, I can't do this shit anymore. But then he said, I'll come by tomorrow. And then I remembered, oh yeah, he mentioned it was June a bit ago. Oh boy.
あんた、リカちゃまに大層気に入られたみたいだしね。
赤坂は明日も来ますですか？明日は5次元で終わりですから、3時くらいに来てくれると嬉しいのですよ。
Please come again. That pure smile urged me to do so. There wasn't a trace of that evil aura. Depending on what happened next, all that might end up is nothing other than my hallucination. Thinking about it logically, if the daughter of the Furude household, one of the three families, had taken a liking to me, and this was a strong foothold for my investigation from here on out. It was like a free ticket for a reason to visit Hinamizawa. If only I could treat that little incident as a figment of my imagination, then having this girl who was the embodiment of my ideal daughter grown so attached to me wasn't bad either. I had successfully dove into the belly of the Onigashiki Guardians and had the mayor as well as other important members of the alliance welcome me with open arms. This was a great turn of events. However, I still felt uneasy. Getting back to the hotel, I forced down an almost painfully cold beer until I could clear my mind. The shock from that incomprehensibly strange incident continued to torment me. And that's the end of the chapter, I think. Kudeji. Alright, let's go and read the tips. We'll save as usual first. And then we'll view the new tips. So we've got Going Smoothly, Why I Like Rainy Days, and Barley Tea and Black Tea and a Millstone. Is that a young Shion or Mion? Going Smoothly. The sound of the car grew closer, followed by the sound of it braking as the engine cut out. Also, new background. Don't think we've seen this one at all before. This just looks like a typical, like, shed, maybe? Wow, this place looks like it's very warm. Like, very hot inside of it. Or like it would be very hot inside of it. Anyway. At that moment, his up until now lackadaisical footsteps grew decisively as the man in the room dashed up to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car. Even so, he still didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sound of the footsteps approached the door. Thump, 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 thump. It was a passcode.
帰ってきたね。開けちょくれな。ああ、お疲れ。今開ける。
After the locks were undone and the door opened, a man appeared, his arms laden with swollen plastic grocery bags. The bags in his hands had 7 marks written on them, with bread and milk cartons able to be glimpsed within. The contents of those bags were then spread out over a sheet on the floor.
カップラーメン買ってきちゃう。お湯沸かせな。小僧はどうしてる？ん？ずっと寝てる。
Oh, that's right. A child was kidnapped. I almost forgot.
手がかからなくて助かるよ。うんこ垂れるときは騒ぐけどな。漏らさせんな。弁臭は万一のとき、やばいって。わかってるよ。猿グツワは定期的にチェックんな。外れてもまずいん。きつくも締め付けちゃあん。窒息させたら意味がなん。わかってるって。あれ？携帯コンロのガス管頼まなかった？もうガスねえよ。聞いてねえ。だは。マジかよ。ついてくれよ。くそ、くそ。
He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went to buy the supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at that sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy was sprawled out on the sheet that was spread out on the floor.
小僧、元気かいね。
Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to hear that question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged and his eyes and ears thoroughly covered by packing tape. Also, his mouth was gagged with a thin, twisted-up towel. Because of that, the boy wasn't able to close his mouth properly, his cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tightly behind his back with a leather belt.
今んところ順調らし。
Was force stamp for
命の心
strength
配
as
はな
well.
い。お前のじいさんがしぶり寄ったん。耳たぶの一つも切り落とさなきゃならんかったんけ。やらんくて済んで助かりよんよ。本家はこうと決めたら鬼やんね。どんな残酷なこと命令するかも想像つかん。その本家が小僧に傷一つつけるな言うてんから、とにかく順調なんだろうな。大臣はダム計画を撤回で水面下工作。ひなみ沢ダム計画は無期凍結へ。小僧の解放はいつ頃になるんだろうな。早く一服したいもんだぜ。本家が決着のタイミング測ってるだし。いつになるかはあらんが、近いうちやんな。よかったな小僧。もうじき解放されるぞ。
The men didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh reality.
それよん、ガスをどうするんね。ラーメン食えんよ。ガス切れたなら言うてえな、もう。
Why I like rainy days. And I do, actually. Rainy days are so fucking nice. The weather forecast had predicted that it would rain, that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. when every day is the same, unchanging sunny weather, however, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. If it's simply clear skies for a week, a month, a year, nobody would long for a rain cloud, or anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialist said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be so likely for the forecast to be wrong. I knew as much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping that it would be wrong as I stared up into the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky undisturbed by a single cloud. If you could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of Earth probably wouldn't have increased to this point. In other words, the only person who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evenings where not even the weather forecast could predict a sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand it a bit would you understand a bit more about how I feel? Let's say that tonight's dinner was going to be omurice. But then, no, it's curry rice. I'm kidding. But when you're called down to the dinner table, there was what was waiting for you was instead an eggplant and bell pepper stir fry. This is just on your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplants or bell peppers, but still, I would be delighted. The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If tonight was repeated 100 times, and 100 times you had to eat curry rice, yet for just this one night, that was changed to an eggplant and bell pepper stir fry. There's no way you couldn't enjoy that chance happening. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when things are all decided beforehand. I have no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that something today will be different from yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided that this entire week, starting today, was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must have also feel obliged to do so. But who's to say that a rain cloud might not just show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because that thought remains in this world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. Tomorrow will probably be a hot and clear day. However, I'm the only one that knows that predetermined fate, even with but a slim 1% chance, sometimes changes. Hoping for that 1%, I hung upside down the weather charms in my sunlit eavesdrops. In the end, I spent my days waiting for those unexpected things in life to happen. I pondered why I was hoping for it. Why I was hoping for a rain cloud. The answer was simple. I've had my fill of clear skies. Then why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. The fact that it was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether it shines or rains tomorrow. Basically, it was just that the rain would water my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why, rather than a TV drama where the plot's already been decided, I prefer to look up at the sky. Interesting. Who was that? It could have been maybe Rika, because it's like what they were talking about was very childish in a way. Childish as in, you know, something simple, like, oh, I don't like clear skies, I want it to rain, right? It's like something a child would say. Well, an adult would probably not really think of that. But then technically, what makes me think it might be an older kid instead of Rika. Mainly because in Japan, well, you know how in the West it's like stereotyped that children don't like broccoli? In Japan, that stereotype for some reason is for bell peppers. Like, kids love broccoli, but they hate bell peppers. And I don't know why. Bell peppers are like delicious. But they don't like them. So it must be someone that's, you know, not 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Maybe like a 10-year-old that has kind of been like, all right, bell peppers are not that bad. So maybe it was like Mion or Shion. It might be Shion for all we know. But anyway, barley tea and black tea and a millstone is next.
だいぶ血圧も良くなってきましたよ。そのお年でこれだけの回復力があるのは、いやいや、感服するばかりです。
Interesting. I don't think we've seen this interior either. It's inside of the Sonozaki household, of course, but I don't think we've seen it at all before.
お嬢さんなら100でも200でも元気にお過ごしになれますね。
The young doctor in his medical coat said that as he undid the blood pressure cuff from the arm of the old woman tucked away in her futon.
入江の先生はほんにお上手で、わしんたいな死に損ないは早うしなんと若者の邪魔になっていけんね。
The old lady, Oryu, laughed faintly with a broad smile on her face. Oryu, of course, being the current head of the Sonozaki household, or, you know, Mion and Shion's grandmother. Then, turning towards the sliding door, she called out in a strong voice.
しみこさん、かたえこさんおらんね。入江先生に麦茶でも入れてやりゃな。
The sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway drew closer until finally the door slid open smoothly. What it revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter.
しみこさんは今日はもう上がっちゃったよ。何かよ。
Oh, so here we have Mion. But in the console art style, she looks super young, right? Because remember, Mion is supposed to be... Well, this takes place in the past. So this Mion is much younger. And she does look like a gremlin. You know, we'll have this art style for a bit. Because we don't ever see it, right?
みよ、入江の先生に麦茶を入れたってんな。
うん、了解。抹茶も飲む？紅茶の方がいい？砂糖もミルクもたっぷり？
わしが加減するから入れんでええんね。砂糖壺とミルクも一緒に持ってきてんな。
はいはい。
The girl named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response to her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway.
先生の麦茶は来客用のガラスジャーに入れるんよ。ちゃんとお座布団もつけてな。水滴もちゃんと拭き取っとくんね。
わーってるって、うっさいな。
Oh my god. A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. The apathetic tone of the voice was far from unusual. The old lady left a wry smile slip across her face as she chided the girl.
しょうがないやっちゃな。叱られるうちがはなんねえ、なんたく。
お嬢さんお嬢さん、まあ、そこまでは言わなくても、ミオンちゃんも若いなりに頑張ってますから。
あれの母親もな、しょうがないやっちゃったんね。よう似とる。
で、その母親の母親もまたそっくりなんじゃないですか？
The old lady burst out laughing. Her expression showed she hadn't taken the comment the wrong way.
入江先生、申し訳ない。症状開けてもらえんけんね。風が涼しそうだわ。
The cool chirping of the Higurashi had at some point started leaking through the gap in the doorway. Iria stood up and opened the door a bit. A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had built up in the room. I don't think we've seen this one either, or this background. I know we've seen this room, but I believe the doors were closed when we came here in chapter 2 with Rena to talk to Mion for the first time at her home. Is that supposed to be a river in the background? Anyway.
日中はだいぶ暑くなったように思うんですが、まだ朝夕は涼しいですね。夕べは少し肌寒いくらいでした。
Yeah, those are the best type of days, where it just starts to get pretty cold out at night.
そんな朝夕もまたひなみ沢のいいところな。
Idia replied with a smile as he returned to sit on the cushion beside the old lady. And then the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi.
わしゃ100まで生きにせ、もうしばらくは死ねんよ。ダムの剣、きっちり蹴りつけるまでは、勘の蓋かって収まらんわ。
国が一度決めたことを撤回するのは、なかなか難しいでしょうね。
国のやることはな、いつの世も一周す回すみたいなもんね。そんでもだいぶ重いやっちゃ。
石臼ですか？
知らんねか、石臼。
Idia quickly affirmed that of course he knew what the old lady was talking about, for he knew full well that Oryu didn't like having her stories interrupted.
国の石臼はな、なんでもゴリゴリ引いちまう。大したもんよ。でもな、簡単には回らない。重い石臼なんねな。たくさんの人間が、せーのってやって、ようやくじりじりと動き出す。そんな石臼なんよ。
Idia pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on the tray. Seeing that Oryu was talking and in a good mood, she quietly knelt down and laid out the sets for the barley tea and black tea, careful not to
だ
interrupt.
から、一度回り始めたら、簡単には止められんね。回し始める一番初めが一番重い。それが嫌だから、みんな手を休めんと、ゴリゴリ回し続けるんね。
摩擦係数の話でしょ。確かにバッチャの話、理屈はあるね。
ちゅうことはだ。何かの間違いで、突然石臼が止まっちまったら、また回すにゃどえらい力がかかる。ちゅうこったな。
確かに一度中断した計画をもう一度動かすのに必要なエネルギーはかなりのものでしょうね。
簡単には止められん石臼だけどな。一度止めれば二度とは回らん。そういう石臼よ。
石臼を止めるいい手があればいいんですがね。
When Idia responded with that, Mion and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Idia, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for words to correct himself. But that silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across Mion and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. She gets a sprite! We get to see what Oryu looks like, which I believe is the first time ever in the game before. Which is insane. Which is also one of the reasons why I kept this art style up, just in case it would give her, like a sprite. The atmosphere surrounding Idia suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted. Thinking that the scornful smiles creeping across both their faces was the result of some mistake of his, he could only grow afraid. Does she have a classic sprite? She does not. In fact, she doesn't appear. So we've got this. We have this creepy shit. And then we have no one here. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Idia could only let out a weak laugh. I'm gonna swap back to the original art style, just in case I don't forget. Idia's laugh eventually spread to Mion and the old lady. Not knowing exactly what they were laughing at, their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. But alright. I think this is a good stopping point for tonight.